Hospitality has this funny way of bringing people together. You can walk into a restaurant and sit down next to someone who's building a business, someone who just moved to the city to start over, someone who's been in the game 40 years, and by the end of the night, you're swapping stories like you've known each other forever. That's what this podcast is about. The AP Momentum podcast isn't just about restaurants. It's about the people who make this industry what it is. Sometimes it's a restaurant manager trying to figure out how to lead a team. Sometimes it's a chef who built something incredible from the ground up. Sometimes it's someone from the liquor world who sees the business from a completely different angle. And sometimes it's just a conversation that starts at the bar and turns into something worth sharing. In the first episode, you heard from a restaurant manager I actually met on a Hinge date. Today, you'll hear from Chef Rob, a New York chef by way of Jamaica, talking about what it really takes to build and grow a restaurant. And coming up, we'll hear from someone inside the liquor industry who sees the restaurant world from a perspective most people never get to hear. Because the truth is, this business is full of stories. Some are funny, some are wild, some are very hard lessons learned, and some moments remind you exactly why you fell in love with hospitality in the first place. So if you've ever worked in a restaurant, or if you're trying to grow in this industry, or if you're just curious about the world behind the dining room, pull up a chair. This is the AP Momentum podcast. What's the biggest myth that aspiring or new restaurant owners think or expect versus like the reality that you know?
Well, they think once they open the door, customers, they're just going to flock in.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand behind the scene, the marketing, making sure that you have your lawyers, everyone in place, your CPA, marketing, promotion, just having your website up, Google. It's so much, stuff to do. It never stops. You're not going to make a ton of money, in the beginning. It'll trickle in, it'll come over time, especially in this industry. The profit margin for restaurant is very low, and people don't think that, okay, yeah, I'm just going to go in the restaurant, I'm going to open up and I'm going to make a bag of money. You might not make any money for the first 2 years. And you're going to have to make those sacrifices with your life, your family, everyone around you. You got to pay the rent. You got to pay insurance. You got to buy food. You got to get liquor. You got to, and that's just
and pay
some
for
of the
all the permits.
Exactly, and that's just some of the fixed expenses. And then when you talk about the variable expenses, the labor that goes up and down, stuff that you can't control, the food, they don't understand that. They just figure, oh yeah, I'm just gonna buy all this food, and now the food is sitting on the shelf or the liquor sitting on the shelf. Yeah, it look pretty up there, but if it's not turning, then what?
Yep.
They don't understand that until they hit the wall and they're like, oh, I didn't calculate that, or
Yep.
I didn't think about that.
This business is not for the faint of heart at all.
At all.
Even when I look back, I'm like, I can't believe I did that. I'm glad I did because it just took me on this journey. But man, I'm glad I didn't know what I was getting myself into because I probably would not have done it,
But a lot of time I talk to people about businesses and I ask them, I say, you sure this is what you want to do?
I'm glad you did say that to me.
And I try to talk them out of doing it because
Yeah.
I'm like, you have to have your eye on the prize. You still have to come in and say, well, I need to hit these numbers. I need to keep my labor costs in order, knowing your percentages, and they go up and down, but you got to know how to fix it, how to, tweak it here and there. And a lot of times people, they don't know. They just figure, oh yeah, we're going to make a lot of money. Have you allocated and put away money for your taxes on a daily basis or weekly basis? Have you allocated putting away money for the labor costs, for your rent? Like when I first opened up, whatever cash we tallied up at the end of the night, I divided by whatever my rent was. And I put away that money on a daily basis every month. Uncle Sam money, because that ain't your money. Taxes, put that away. Rent, put that away. And everything else, you put that, for my
Labor
CPA say
and
do
food.
flotchies, put that away for, accidentals and stuff like that. But people don't think about that. Oh, I get a bag of money, I'm just going to put it in one account. No. You divided that. If you get $1,000, you divide that up and you put away tax money, you put away your rent money, and then you put the other in an operational account. So at least at the end of the month, my rent money is over there.
No matter what.
No matter what, that money is over there. I might not make $2, but that rent money is over there, because no matter what, you can't say, well, I didn't make no money this week. The show keep going.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people get discouraged. Oh, I didn't make no money, so I'm going to shut it down. You can't shut it down. You got to keep going. There's days where I don't make no money, but I got to keep going. And some people, they're not built for that.
Yeah.
They think if you open the door, you're going to make money every day. No, not in this business.
Yeah. And you hear that concept, pay yourself first. But it's like in this business, you're like the last to get paid.
This episode is for aspiring restaurant owners, operators, and managers who want to understand what it really takes to build something that lasts in this industry. Today, we're talking about the systems behind the scenes, finance, operations, culture, and how you scale a restaurant without losing the heart of the experience. We're having this conversation inside the restaurant during service, which I personally love. So if you hear the clinking plates, music, or bustling of the room, that is the sound of hospitality happening in real time.
85% of that have to go back to the business. And at the end of the day, you might only be left with 15%, if you're lucky, if you're running tight numbers. And 15% is being very generous.
Yeah.
Very, very generous.
Imagine having multiple business partners.
Exactly. And now you got to divvy up that 15% between 3 or 4 people. That's not a nice check.
Oh.
That's not a nice check.
Yeah, that's brutal.
If you're doing numbers, it could be nice, but you have to stay on it.
Yeah.
You
in
can't
order
skip
to
a
get
beat.
to the place where you're even doing numbers, where it's a nice chunk.
You
You
can't
have to
skip a
have
beat.
systems.
Yeah, like I've seen people, restaurant, there's one that just closed down in Buckhead, and I mean, that place was a machine. And I'm just thinking, just real estate in Buckhead, it's like $50,000 a month. Just thinking.
In Buckhead?
Yeah.
Wow. New York rent.
Yeah, exactly. 40. I mean, it's a huge space, but just thinking, you gotta. That's a lot.
That's
That's
lot.
just a rent, not included labor, not included food costs, liquor costs, accidentals, insurance. It's so much.
How long were they open?
They was open quite some time, but I don't know. But you got to understand, a lot of time people are in business and they're not making any money. They just skating by, or they just making the bare minimum, and they just keep moving.
Right.
But they have to keep moving because they have long-term obligations. They can't just say the hell with it. Some people that don't care, they'll be like, I don't care, I'm done. But when you're a true chef and you have went through the ups and downs and the nuances, and you'll keep pushing. You'll keep pushing and you'll figure it out. You'll find a way, or you'll make a way.
What is one thing you wish you knew 20 years ago?
I think I had a little snippet of everything, but because I've been in the business for so long before I opened my restaurant, so a lot of stuff didn't come to me as a surprise. I kind of knew it was possibly around the corner, and it would possibly could happen. So I just knew that, okay, yeah, if this happened, I had to respond for it. If this happened, I know exactly what I had to do. So I think I gradually just got into it and knew exactly there was going to be some roadblocks, and how do I, get through those roadblocks. But no, I think I had a lot of stuff covered. I can't really think back of 20 years ago.
What you wish you knew. But how did you know that? Like what you were just sharing about, like, have the separate accounts to put money for taxes and money for rent. Like, where do you get that lesson?
Prior to me opening my restaurant 19 years ago, I worked here in the same location for another guy. And that money came in and they put it all in one bag. So now the taxes have to get paid, and now they're scrambling looking for the tax money. I said, well, the tax money was all in one bag. Everything they put in one lump sum. So they never divided it. So I learned from their mistake.
Wow.
And I said, I make sure that I'm not going down that road. So when my time came, which is maybe, I learned a lot from a lot of people's mistakes, and I just take that.
Okay.
And I said, well, I got to make sure that I have 3 bags. One for rent, because that rent got to get paid. One for the taxes, Uncle Sam got to get his money. And one for, operation. And that was just the cash. That wasn't even include the credit card that was going to the bank. That was just cash. So the cash money could just pay the rent by itself if there was enough. And you just piece it together. But at least, towards the end of the month, you at least know you got 75% of that money already there. That tax money, that need to be set aside.
Don't even think about it.
That money add up real fast.
Yeah.
And when you play with Uncle Sam and you don't have that money, man, they come with that padlock. You're screwed. So it might be sometime days or weeks that you don't get paid, but at least you took care of your business and you paid the necessary people. And now you could not even worry too much because you did the right thing. At least taking care of those 2 nuances.
For someone opening a restaurant, what advice would you give about building a team that will protect and carry their vision even when they can't be there every day?
Just make sure that you have your processes and everything in place. Again, you don't have to constantly keep being there on a daily basis, but as long as you put those manuals and, you might, if you can't afford a manager, make sure that you have a key holder that know how to open, how to close a shift. Just keep the process as simple as possible. When you see those, I don't like to use a C word, when you have those cancers in your team, you got to cut them loose ASAP because what they're going to do, they're going to poison the rest of the team. So when you see that, you got to be able to dissect it real fast and say, no, get rid of it because it could take down your whole team.
I was running this hotel bar and one of the bartenders was crouching down behind the bar, I later learned, filling her water bottle with Don Julio. The end of the night, she's hammered. I put somebody in the bar, but long story short, HR caught wind of it. They go back and look at the footage and they end up firing 3 of my best people along with her because she made the block high, and it just was like, I learned such a valuable lesson. The shift drinks on occasion just really led to a much bigger issue on New Year's Eve, where someone couldn't handle it and then we end up losing 4 people. And then as a manager myself, I got written up for not immediately
assessing the problem.
Yeah, and basically firing her that night on the spot. So it was a very valuable lesson. And now I'm against any shift drinks or whatever because it really jeopardizes everyone's livelihood.
Yeah, I don't play in the gray areas, black or white, because it could get real sticky real fast.
Yeah.
So I just say no when they try to act or entertain, I just shut it down now. Just like with the story you just shared with me with that young lady that was getting drunk on your time with their liquor, and that cost you 4 people. That's a tough one. So again, even with my staff, I told them, and my customers, no outside beverages. No outside beverages. I don't give a damn what it is. You can't come in here because I don't know what's in there. It could be tequila, it could be vodka, and you over here getting drunk.
Now they walk out of your establishment, cause an accident, and you're liable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same thing with the staff. No, I don't come in here with anything, no liquid whatsoever.
So many restaurant owners start with this incredible dream for how they want people to feel in their space. But over time, with staff changes and all the moving parts, that vision can slip away. How have you kept yours alive through your managers and your team?
Well, again, you got to continue to keep reinventing yourself. People like to come into a place and it looks new. People come here and they're like, oh, this is a new restaurant. Not knowing that this restaurant been here for 19 years, but I have made so many changes over the last 19 years. I have gutted this restaurant maybe 3, 4 times. So you have to keep it fresh. You have to keep it up to date. You have to get mindful people that's energetic.
Did you start with an operations manual or did you create one as you went? And
yes,
tell me
the
about
operation manual was in my head. But we slowly created one as we started dealing with a lot of new employees. You know, we had some that been with me for a long time. I mean, we had one young lady that been with me for like 14 years. So
Wow.
I had employees that been with me for a long, long time. You know, they was teenagers and they learned. So now they could go out on their own if they were serious about opening their own business. So if they're listening and they're paying attention, they could be successful in anything that they want to do.
That's right.
But, you know, this new age, they think they know it all because they got Chat GPT or they got the Google or they got Facebook. They got so much other stuff that they think, you know, you got to go out there. You know, like I always tell them, I said, you don't go in the ring with Mike Tyson and don't have your shoes on or your gloves tied up because you're going to get your head knocked off. You better come prepared or don't come at all.
That's right. How do you decide when it's time for you to step in versus letting your managers handle it, even if it's not perfect?
Well, I let my guys do a lot of the work, but if I know that we're down or we're short, in this industry right here, you're always short somewhere. So again, I'm never that person where I can't go pick up a broom, you know, or walk a customer to a car that need to load up their catering. Answer the phone, you know, go make a drink behind the bar. By me doing that, they know that, listen, this guy's here with us. You know, he's going to lead us. They're watching, they're paying attention.
Yeah.
And they're doing it. And I go in there and I see how they moving and shaking. I'm like, man, they re-inspired me. Like, man. Wow. But we have to have those systems and we have to hold everyone accountable. So I make myself an example. You know, my business example of what a business should look like. I don't have to be here micromanage these guys. You know, we set them up for success. Because if you're in your business every day, you can't grow your business.
Right.
Because you're stuck in the business trying to work on the business. When you step out of the business, you can look in at the business and say, how can I fix this business? How could I go to other businesses and then look and see what's going on out there in this world? How could I implement this and hopefully it will work. But if you're in the business every day, it's hard to grow.
Let's talk about Jerk's Caribbean Grill.
Caribbean.
Okay. I know you've also launched a fast casual concept that is doing very well, and it does not carry your name in the same way. Was that a deliberate choice to build something that you can scale or operate without you physically being there all the time?
Well, part of growing your brand, you can't be at each one of your locations at all. You know, part of growing a business, you have to be able to step away from the business. So again, like I said, my son, he went to school for business management. He understands the intricate part of how to run the business on both ends, back of the house, the front of the house. So the name Jerk arrived from, of course, being Jamaican-born and raised there and eating jerk chicken a lot. So when we decided, me and my son went back and forth for quite some time, and at one point I just said, listen, that's just a name. We're stuck with it. You know, people might think, oh, jerk is a derogatory word. Or I said, listen, this is my culture. This is what Jamaicans are known for. You know, if you think about any Jamaican dish, the first thing they probably gonna say, jerk chicken. You know, or oxtail, but mainly it's probably gonna be jerk chicken because that's what we're known for. So I think the name was very catchy. Me not having the name, you know, it's so much that you could do. I think Chef Rob have been around for so long, and I don't go and plaster my name on everything because it could be good and bad. So I make sure that, you know, people know that I am the owner. I'm very much involved. But I don't have to be there because a lot of time people will ask me, well, I came to your restaurant, I didn't see you. I can't be in my restaurant all the time. I have other stuff to do. You know, I am the restaurant, but the restaurant's still going to run and operate whether I'm here or not. And that show you, okay, if the restaurant is being ran properly, then the owner don't have to be there. You know, and if you're there every day, that means something is wrong because your manager's not doing what they're supposed to do. You know?
Story. I've heard such great things about it. Even before I ran into you, I had seen it come up on my feed dozens of times, which is a really great sign. How soon will you be looking to open more of them?
Well, the goal is not to open up one or two of them. The goal, the bigger picture is to franchise the model. And That's in the process. We actually working on that. It's going to take quite some time because we want to make sure that, all our paperwork is in order. The lawyers, the FDD, everything has to check, the boxes, because when we launch and when we do it the right way, we want to be able to sell 10 to a territory and say, well, listen, this is your territory, Penice. You have access to the southeastern region, and you have the license to open up 10 in this area. So we're going for private equity and venture capitalists that knows and understand the restaurant business. So if you get one restaurant and it fails, now I have to take it back and no, you have to be fully invested, knowing exactly what you're doing. I was just watching a program on Top Golf the other day, why they was failing. And why Callaway had to come in and help them out, and it fell apart, and now they're back on the upswing, trying to get it right. But it's a very, very expensive, to open up these units, and you can't take that burden on yourself.
Yeah.
It's too much. That particular location over there is 1,300 square feet, and I literally pulled out about $350,000 out of my pocket to get that done. Now, a lot of people don't have that type of money to do that. And 2 years prior to that, I took $450 out of my pocket to do this.
So to redo it?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, because I gutted it completely, from top to bottom, and started it from scratch. So a lot of time in the restaurant industry, because it's so risky, banks are not looking to give out no money.
Especially at a time like this.
Especially at this time. So it just period, the restaurant industry is very risky. So going to the bank, your paper could be 100%. They're very tentative on could I, should I? So like even when I opened this restaurant, I knew it was that time for me. I was 32 at the time, and I opened this place and I was 33 years old. I knew all the stars, everything was starting to line up. And my credit was always good, credit cards was always in line, and I just maxed out all my credit cards. And that's how I was able to get this restaurant going, because going to the bank, I knew that was an option. Going to friends and family, I knew that was an option. So I did what I could, and, I paid it back, and now I'm on the upswing. My family, they are my business partner. So you keep it beautiful, you keep it simple, to the point, and thank my staff and everyone that has been on this journey with me for the longest. Just I didn't do this by myself. I keep praising it, because I can't do it by myself, nor do I want to do it by myself. I love what I do, because people gonna look at me and be like, one day I want to be that Chef Rob. I have kids coming here and they want to get in the kitchen, they want to put on an apron, and now they're grown men and they like, I got into the restaurant business. Matter of fact, my sous chef, Dominique, she was a student when she was 16, 17 years old, and she used to come and watch me doing a cooking class in the lounge, and now she's my sous chef.
Really?
10 years later, yeah.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, so, stories like that, you want to be like, well, I'm making a difference.
Talk to me about your food truck. How long were you in business before you opened it? And then how long did you keep that going?
Well, I was in business for at least 8 years before I decided to get a food truck. I had made the money back. I was saving. I got a little bored. My son was here. My ex-wife was here. And now, it was a challenge I needed. And I said, I always wanted a food truck. And I just said, I'm just going to buy me a food truck. Not having a clue what the hell I was going to do, how I was going to do it. But I just went and bought it, and I figured it out. And once I figured it out, because at the time food truck was fairly new, this was like 14 years ago, new to Atlanta. There wasn't a lot of Caribbean restaurants, period. There wasn't a lot of Caribbean food truck out there. So I was like one of the first. And I started partnering up with some, heavy hitters, some colleges. I partnered up with Clark Atlanta. So I was at the Promenade for about 4 years, and I had some good contract with Verizon up in Alpharetta, Coca-Cola, and it just worked out. And the beauty about what I had a commissary, which was my kitchen here.
Right.
And a lot of time people, they want to get a food truck, and I'm like, first of all, where's your commissary?
That's right.
You can't
What's
cook.
that?
Yeah, you can't cook out of your garage or in your kitchen.
That's right.
Because the health inspectors come in and say, well, you cooking at your house. That ain't gonna fly. And now they have to retract like, oh, damn, I done bought this truck. People just figure, oh, yeah, I'm gonna get a food truck. I'm just gonna go pull up over here, pull up over there. No.
No,
You have to do
pull
your
up
due
places
diligence.
and they want to see your permit to be there, not just your permit to operate a food truck.
They want to see your business license. They want to see your health score. It's a lot that goes into it. And a lot of time people, they don't do their due diligence. They just jump out without a plan. And then they figure out, oh, damn, I didn't thought this out too well.
God, it's so true. I had someone call me the other day and he was like, hey, my son bought a food truck and I was hoping you could just talk to him because I just don't want him to make a mistake with, And so after our conversation, the young man called me back and he said, I'm leasing the food truck to someone else because after our conversation, I realized I don't have the bandwidth for that.
Correct.
But there is so much that someone just does not think about.
Yeah, where do you park the truck? The maintenance of the truck. That truck done broke down on me so many times going to a venue. Yeah. Now you done lost out on that money.
Yeah.
You got the product on the truck. Now you have to come back, and sometimes you lost the product. It's a lot of nuances that people don't get. They see the fun side of it. Oh, you at a venue, it's thousands of people out there. Yeah, we making money, but what happened before you got there? You got to get here. You got to prep. You got to load up the truck. You got to hopefully get there without the truck breaking down on you. Or it's so many nuances. And I went through all that, and I'm thinking back. I'm like, how the hell did I do that? Why did I do that? But when you're just so passionate about things, you just like you don't think about it. You just do it.
Yeah.
But as we get older now, you're like, nah, I ain't doing that no more.
I need a quality of life.
Yeah, exactly. When you're young, you just do stuff, spur of the moment. But as you get older, you're like, nah.
Yeah, that math is not math.
Nah, not at all.
Give me a final piece of advice for hospitality entrepreneurs.
Final advice, man. Just make sure you're hard in it. Know exactly, what you need to do, how you're going to do it. Have a strategic plan. Have a team of people that know how to execute. I can't stress enough, pay attention to the detail. You cannot miss the detail because that's everything. Know your customer. Get to, become that friend with them. So when they come in, they could market and promote for you, whether you're there or not. Just be in the business, as much as possible until it's time for you to step away and grow the business. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. Just staying vigilant, staying aware of what's going on, knowing the trends that's happening, and knowing how to, deviate the pitfall, because there will be pitfalls. Like now is a slow time of the year. There's hills and valleys in it, and know how I need to, scale back or when I need to scale up. So it's just being a part of the industry, going to these seminars, going to these classes, always educating yourself. Don't think, because I opened a restaurant, I'm making money. No, it doesn't work. You always got to keep building yourself up. Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Last, our quick fire round. What's your favorite ingredient to cook with right now?
Favorite ingredient? That's a lot. I know this is quick fire, but jerk.
Okay. Your dream chef collaboration?
Chef Ramsay.
All right. A dish you're tired of cooking?
Oxtails.
A Caribbean dish every American should try?
Oxtails.
All right.
No, jerk. No. Curry gold.
Okay.
Curry gold. Yeah.
Love some gold. All right. In closing, where can people find you and your business?
They can find me in 2 different locations. The first one is Chef Rob's, that's located 5920 Roswell Road in the heart of Sandy Springs. We're located right across from Lowe's, a quarter of a mile from 285. Just a beautiful location. The other location is in also the heart of Brookhaven, fairly new location in Town Boulevard, Costco Shopping Center. It's in the live-eat community, so it's very busy over there. There's a lot of traffic, whether it's commercial or residential.
Near Oglethorpe University.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Y'all
right in
about
that
to be
vicinity.
real busy.
Exactly.
That's
So
great.
be right in that vicinity. It's a very popular shopping center. And I'm very blessed that it's over there. It's a fast casual concept. We do a lot of bold. There, social media is labeling it the Caribbean Chipotle.
Yeah.
Which I'm not mad at it. I'll run with it. I love Chipotle, what they've been doing for the last, 20 years. But, if you want to label me that, go ahead.
That'll be that, right?
Yeah, but I think it stands for itself. It's a fast casual. People like the setup. I'm wearing a shirt as we speak. It's branded very well. They're doing an excellent job over there, and I'm very proud of the achievement that me and my family have pursued over the last 20 years.
Yeah, that's
So
fantastic.
hopefully the plan is to go for another 20 years, so I could eventually go sit down or go kick rocks. No, matter of fact, go kick sand on somebody's beach every day. That's my plan. So I want to be able to live a life of leisure and just, look back and say, well, I've done it.
Yeah.
And somebody else needs to carry the torch.
Well done.
That's right.
That is fantastic. Hospitality isn't just about what happens on the floor. It's about the moments we share inside these walls. Thanks for listening to the AP Momentum Hospitality Podcast. And remember, leadership is built one shift at a time. We'll see you next shift.